Welcome back to Manga Storian, where we're going to be continuing our coverage of Berserk. 3 more chapters today, just for you. Now, when we last left off, after the battle against the pirates, our heroes had moved their ship towards an island. One that had a girl on it, one with a seemingly deep connection to the ocean. After getting changed and warmed up by the fire, Izma told Shirke that she must have been the witch that Ishidori was talking about. She then excitedly throws a plate of food down, stating that today has been incredible. Never had she thought that she would have a fairy and a witch stop by for a visit. She was just listening to Ishidori's tales of heroic and legendary adventures, and now she must hear all about hers. Shirke asks, heroic? And well, before that, maybe she could possibly tell her about the island a little bit. Izma says sure. Though it's pretty boring, she's just a fisher girl. Not much to say about this dump of an island. Because this place is such a long way from the shipping routes, they have very little provisions here. There's only one little fishing village and the people hate outsiders. They're also gloomy and grumpy. She herself refuses to live with the likes of them, which is why she lives here alone. And she's an outcast. Ishidori and Shirke ask her what does she mean, and Izma goes on stating that it's because they are scared of her. It's because she's a Mero. The two ask, a mermaid? She bursts out laughing, telling them, fooled you, right? Sorry, I just wanted to fit in with the whole witches and fairies thing. It's true that I'm an outcast. My father was a mermaid lover. Izma lifts her dress to show her legs, telling them that she's sorry to disappoint. But she's human, and she can swim as good as any mermaid. As far as she can remember, her mother was just never around, and her father never liked to talk about her. 4 years ago, her father's boat capsized during a storm, and on his deathbed, he told her that her mother will one day come. He said that the decoration on the door was a lucky charm that he had gotten from her mother a long time ago, but she herself had never seen a mermaid. She often wondered if she actually believed them, but seeing a witch and a fairy in the flesh, mermaids wouldn't be so weird. Shirke then asks why would anyone be scared of mermaids. She's heard that they're friendly and signify good luck to fishermen. And Izma tells her that it's always been like that, mainly because of the legend of the sea god. Back in the ancient times, the sea god would go on rampaging around, attacking ships and eating people. A family of mermaids came and they challenged the sea god, but after several months, they all fell. But they managed to seal the god away and restore life back to the sea. However, even with the sea god's seal, they say that when a full moon comes, its limbs will return and attack the people. Since the mermaids never really finished the job, that's why the people here despise them. The strange thing is, though, is that the people haven't been going out to fish lately. Whenever she passes by the town, she can see people staring at her. They all have fish-like eyes, like the monsters in the cave. Not only that, there's something strange happening in the waters as well. There's a weird presence and a voice that can be heard. Ever since the queer wind blew by, it's like the world has changed. Back in the inn, Roderick finishes eating, and he says that it's time for him to return to the ship and see how the repairs are going. They're gonna leave in the morning, preferably noon, so please, everyone have a good night's sleep. But as Roderick steps outside of the inn, he sees a group of people surrounding the inn, and every one of those people are staring at him. Magnifico asks, what, more customers all of a sudden? And the cook looks back stating, oh no, this is a welcome party for their dear guests. The moon is full tonight, which is also a special occasion. The cook cuts off the head of another fish and he tells them that they're about to start the sea god's rebirth feast. The moment the cook stops talking, Guts throws one of his knives into the cook's eye and everyone watches as the cook starts to turn into a goopy liquid falling to the ground. Magnifico shouts, asking how it's even possible, and just then a hand reaches up from behind the counter where the cook was. The hand begins to split apart and from the back of it a giant tentacle appears, just like the one that Guts fought when fighting against the ghost ship. He grabs his sword and he swings down, cutting the tentacle in half. And Roderick says, don't tell me that this place is full of creatures too. And Guts begins to walk outside. As he looks around, he sees all of the people outside beginning to transform into these tentacle creatures. And he says, this is what I call a real welcoming party. Just as Guts gets ready to attack, Shirke can feel a shift in the ode, as images of the tentacle creatures attacking Guts and the others come to her. She gets up stating that she's sorry that they have to do this, but they must rejoin their friends in the village. It's quite urgent. Izma sighs, stating, is that so? How about she goes with them? Since it's dark, the roads will be pretty treacherous. She can be their guide. Back at the inn, Guts swings his sword, cutting through a group of tentacle creatures. Serpico follows up right behind him, slicing through another. And as the two groups fall, Serpico looks up at the full moon, stating that his sword seems to be strengthened by this full moon. Inside of the inn, Magnifico screams as two of the customers in the corner change, and Farnese quickly grabs her satchel, letting the magical vines out. The vines crawl onto the two creatures and hold them in place long enough for Roderick to take his sword and stab through them. Outside, Guts rips through another group of monsters, and Serpico asks how many of these things are there. He fears the whole village may have turned. Guts tells him, when you have a squid with man's legs. And just then the ground begins to rumble and suddenly two giant creatures controlling the limbs, the tentacles, appear. And Serpico says that he knew it. Guts takes his sword, stabbing right down into the neck of one of the monsters, and he starts to run it back. Another of the creatures attacks, but as Serpico's attacks are deflected, everyone shouts for Guts to watch out. As the giant tentacle slams down, Guts barely has enough time to block the hit, using his fake arm to take on most of the force. Once Guts sees an opening, he holds out his sword and he begins to charge through it, splitting the monster in two, and as he stops, everyone asks if he's alright. He shrugs it off, telling him, yeah, it was nothing. As the blood begins to drip out of his face, he looks back to see more of the tentacles rising, and he says that he thinks that they may be in the lair of the monsters. Meanwhile, back on the roads of the island, Shirkei and Ishidoro follow Izma, and Izma tells them to watch their steps. As she looks forward, she says that they can look over by the cave. There's something climbing the cliff. As the three take a closer look, there's a ghost ship scaling the cliffside. And back with Guts, he continues to tear through the hordes of the tentacles until he comes face to face with another squid mouth. The mouth tries to bite down, but as Guts uses his sword to shield himself, he manages to cut down, slicing through the bottom portion of the mouth. More of the larger creatures begin to move in, and Guts holds out his sword along with his fake arm. With that, he fires the cannon, spinning himself, ripping through the group. He loads the cannon back up, stating that he's never expected to fire this thing this many times. I'm gonna have to send you the bill for all of the gunpowder. Roderick laughs, telling him that he'll gift him a barrel full of the stuff if they live until morning. But as more of the monsters slowly begin to creep in, Magnifico asks why doesn't the Black Swordsman just use the power that he used back at the Holy City, the dog suit berserker thing? And Fardi shouts no, that power must absolutely not be used. If he uses that power without Shirkei around, he will. But just then there's a rumbling coming out of the cliffside, and everyone looks back to see the ghost ship climbing up towards them. As it gets closer, Magnifico says that it's impossible. How can the ship be on land? There is no limit to this nonsense. And just as Magnifico finishes, everyone can hear the cackling of a man on the ship, and a voice calls out, "Nonsense be our trade." Bonebeard then says, "Once you get a whiff of the blood, I'll follow you to the ends of the earth, eh?" Magnifico begins to panic, shouting, "It's him!" And Guts says that he's never actually looked up at a pirate ship before. Serpico tells him, yeah, they really have to lean their heads back, huh? And Roderick says that he's actually a bit jealous of the ship. Bonebeard laughs again. Your compliments honor me, but soon you will join my ranks. You thought that those tentacles were actually changing into men, but it's quite the opposite. Eating people turn into tentacles. Eaten by the ghost ship, you will become the king of the sea. Roderick asks if the ship is full of monsters, and Bonebeard tells him, nay, we be but the whiskers. Last time we met, the sun was coming up, and you couldn't see the sea god. But with this full moon, it's a special night. As everyone begins to look around, they see more and more sea monsters crawling up onto the land, getting ready to attack them, and Guts tries to remain calm as he sees the monster, but soon he begins to struggle and the chains inside of him begin to rattle. Shirkei sees the beast of darkness trying to free itself, and she telepathically shouts that he mustn't, not until she gets there. But that's when Guts looks back to see Casca, with the berserker helm slowly starting to swallow his head, and when it closes its mouth, the armor digs itself into his body, and he jumps into the air, ready to jump off the monsters, tearing through everything within sight. He lands on the tip of the ship and he begins to growl, and Bonebeard asks, what be this scurvy dog? Guts begins to howl at the moon as he leaps forward towards Bonebeard, and he stabs his sword right between the eyes of the sea god. One of the giant tentacles whips up, smacking right down where Guts was standing, but he dodges the attack, spinning into a ball, slicing through everything else. He finally stops as he cuts through one of the sea creature's heads, spraying its blood everywhere. But back along the village's edge, Izma shouts that the village is being attacked by a ship and a huge sea monster. Shirkei looks down to the center of it and sees Guts, already wearing the berserker armor. And that is where we'll be concluding today, my friends. Thank you for joining us for this crazy and fun adventure of Berserk. This entire channel is based upon you guys watching this stuff, and since you do, thank you. I'll see you next week right here.